The following video has been brought to you by RYN Studios. Release your nerd. Hello everyone, my name is the King of Clubs, and welcome to another episode of List It. In this episode, I'm going to be counting down my picks for the top 10 best sidekicks of all time. Now, before we get started, I want to let everyone know that in this countdown, I'm not specifying on just sidekicks from comic books or from superheroes. I'm referring to sidekicks in general. So there's going to be movie sidekicks, TV show sidekicks, just a ton of different sidekicks from different categories throughout this countdown. Alright, with that being said, let's get started with number 1. Number 1 is Daxter from the Jak and Daxter gaming series. Daxter is a furry little kind of ferret-like creature. Originally he was a character that was human-ish, like Jak from the Jak and Daxter series, except at the beginning of the first game he gets transformed into the furry creature that everyone knows him as today. He's full of sarcastic, smart-mouth humor, usually a good little sidekick for extra attacks and for other abilities. Admittedly, I haven't played the Jak and Daxter series. I have played the PlayStation All-Stars game, the fighting game that features Jak and Daxter as a playable character. Now, moving onward to number 9. Number 9 is the Companions of the Doctor. This refers to Doctor Who. Doctor has had many companions over the many years that it's been around, with each Doctor usually having more than one companion. My personal favorite has always been Rose Tyler. I think part of that is because she was the companion that I was first introduced to, because I was introduced to the series with Christopher Eccleston. And then I watched all the series afterwards, up till present. Now, Rose has always been my personal favorite. I liked her interactions with Chris, and I really liked her interactions with David Tennant when he became the Doctor after Chris left the show. So that's my personal pick for my favorite companion, but this category is going to all companions of the Doctor because they all count as a sidekick. Alright, moving on to number 8 in the countdown. Number 8 is Mr. Spock from Star Trek. Spock is the primary sidekick for Captain James Kirk. Always providing the most logical and every once in a while slightly sarcastic plan of attack for the scenarios that James Kirk gets himself into. Whether it's being portrayed by the late Leonard Nimoy or by Zachary Quinto, Spock has always been one of my more favorite sci-fi characters, usually because of how he approaches a situation, with his intellectual and just unrelenting logic is probably the best way to describe it. Alright, moving on to number 7 is Dr. Watson from Sherlock Holmes. I've loved the Sherlock movies. Admittedly, I haven't seen all of them all the way through, but what I have seen I love, and I know that throughout history, throughout the many forms of Sherlock, whether it be a book, or a TV show, or a movie, Dr. Watson's always been there by his side. He's usually giving a logical basis for what Sherlock Holmes bases his deductions and reasoning off from. But nevertheless, he's always there willing to lend a hand to Sherlock Holmes. Okay, moving on to number 6. Number 6 is Abu the Monkey from the Aladdin franchise. Now, whether this be the movies or the TV show or even some of the video games, Abu has always been the furry little thief that's tagged along with Aladdin. Whether he's there for comedic relief or if he's there to actually help out Aladdin out of a tight spot, he's proved to be the one of the most entertaining sidekicks on this countdown. Okay, moving on to number 5 is Boo Boo Bear from the Yogi Bear franchise. Now, whether this be the old TV show, which I loved watching when I was younger, or the movie that was made just a couple years ago, Boo Boo has always been the sidekick for Yogi Bear. Usually, as most sidekicks in this countdown are, offering some form of logic or reasoning to an otherwise ridiculous or outlandish plan. Usually Boo Boo, as many others, are trying to caution the main character to not do whatever the outlandish plan is. But Boo Boo has always amused me. Usually a little bit reluctant, but in the end always willing to help out his friend Yogi. Moving on to number 4 is another cartoon sidekick. This one is Barney Rubble from the Flintstones. Now, Barney's a little bit different, whereas other sidekicks and supporting cast characters for the old cartoons would offer logic or some type of way of getting someone not to do something because they're afraid that the outlandish plan is going to backfire or they know it's going to backfire. Barney is not like that. He's that friend that's just almost as dopey as you are, if not a little bit worse, because he just sets off to the side and he says, okay, kind of laughs, chuckles, just goes with the flow. Real easygoing guy, but typically doesn't help out a whole lot of the situation. As in most comedic scenarios of the Flintstones, he half the time ends up making it worse by accident. Alright, moving on to number 3 is War Machine. Now this is from the Iron Man franchise. A character that was later on renamed the Iron Patriot. War Machine is actually one of Tony Stark's power suits, that is used by somebody other than himself. This is actually used by Brody, James Rhodes. He ends up in the movie stealing the armor for the U.S. government's use. They later on changed it into the Super Patriot, or excuse me, the Iron Patriot. Super Patriot's a different comic book character. Turns into the Iron Patriot and making it a weapon of the government, augmenting it with extra weapons, basically a ton more guns. But War Machine is always a pretty cool character. When I first heard about War Machine, it was, I believe, in the old comic books, or older, not necessarily the old comic books, and then some cartoon mentions in the cartoons of War Machine being this large, bulky suit. But nowadays, that's kind of what the Hulkbuster is going to be looking like in the new Avengers movie. So they slimmed down War Machine, and then they created a separate suit called the Hulkbuster. But yeah, War Machine's always been cool, in my opinion, just because, and it's for the simple reason that he's got all the extra guns, all the extra stuff that you don't see with Iron Man, because Iron Man just uses his, usually his plasma blasts, or using his little hand cannons. But, so, Iron Man's more subtle, whereas War Machine's just right in your face. Yeah, I got guns. Yeah, you can see them. Alright, moving on to number 2 is another comic book sidekick. This one's Bucky Barnes. Bucky Barnes started out as a sidekick, later on becomes a villain, as demonstrated in the movie Winter Soldier. He becomes the Winter Soldier. But he was a sidekick in the first movie, and even in the comic books he was known just as Bucky, the sidekick for Captain America. Always loyal and trustworthy until the incident that turns him into the Winter Soldier. Spoiler alert, I believe in the comic books the Winter Soldier actually does kill Captain America, only to later on become Captain America. I believe it's called the Black Suit Captain or something like that, because if I remember right, the main difference was that he was just like Captain America in appearance, except his suit was black instead of blue. Which is kind of ironic if you consider the fact that in the storyline he kills the guy that he later on ends up taking over for. But yeah, as Bucky Barnes, as a sidekick, he was great. He was probably one of the most loyal, most trustworthy sidekicks that Captain ever had. Alright, moving on to our number 1 spot is another comic book sidekick, is probably the most recognizable and well-known sidekick of all time, and that is Robin. Now, the neat thing about Robin is that there's been multiple characters to play the role of Robin. It started out with Dick Grayson, who, as the role of Robin, got tired of arguing with Bruce Wayne, and later on left to become his own superhero known as Nightwing. The next one is Jason Todd. Now, the cool thing about Jason Todd is that he's a little bit darker. People sometimes refer to him as the evil Robin because he was less likely to hold Batman back if he started to get a little out of hand. Always wanting to lash out at people. Usually the villain's trying to be a little bit more violent with them. In the comic books, Jason Todd actually is killed by the Joker, but he is later on resurrected because of a supernatural occurrence that happens affecting the entire DC universe. This is the fracturing of the wall of reality by, I believe it's Superboy Prime actually punches a hole in it, and just that disrupts a lot of things, it resets a lot of things, one of which is bringing Jason Todd back to life. But the difference is that he knows he dies, he's aware that he dies, and he blames Batman and Bruce Wayne for that. So when he's brought back to life, he comes back as a villain known as the Red Hood, which I always thought was a cool series. Even later on in the Battle for the Cowl, when Bruce Wayne goes missing, they're trying to declare a new Batman. Jason Todd kind of steps in as an evil version of Batman, who's wielding guns and armor versus the usual cape and cowl and using non-lethal tactics. Number 3, as far as the Robins go, there are 4 of them that were made. The third Robin was Timothy Drake. Timothy Drake took over after Jason Todd died, but before he was resurrected, and stayed as Robin for a long time, probably one of the longest running Robins since Dick Grayson. Timothy Drake took over until he was actually kind of forced out of his role as Robin because of the 4th Robin that came in. When that Robin took over, Timothy Drake became another character called Red Robin, who got his own standalone series for a while. I'm not sure if they still have that now that they've done the new 52s, or if that just ended with Flashpoint. Now the 4th Robin is Damian, and he was actually the daughter of Ra's al Ghul that gave birth to Damian Wayne. So interestingly enough, Damian grew up with his mom and grandfather, Ra's al Ghul, and trained with the League of Shadows. So he was actually a young assassin whenever he came to be united with Batman. When he became Robin at first, he was wanting to use the tactics of the League of Shadows, but Batman was quick to correct that, as telling him that we don't kill. That was one of the first rules that he made sure Damian learned very quickly. As one would expect, Damian was very defiant, especially when Bruce Wayne died or was lost in time, technically is what happened. Damian became very defiant of the new Batman, which was Dick Grayson taking over as Batman for a while. So yeah, there have been 4 different Robins. I think my personal favorite was Dick Grayson. Partially because he was the original, but also because I like the Nightwing story as well. Him branching off and becoming Nightwing, I always thought that was kind of cool. I like the idea of it. Just him being something totally different, but still kind of being referenced to Robin in a sense, because it's still kind of a bird-themed character. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for the countdown today. This video ran a little bit longer because I'm putting more information into the videos now. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you favorite, like, comment, subscribe, share. Make sure you get other people involved in this. The more people we get involved, the better I can make this channel in the future, because the more subscribers I get, the more events I can do for you guys in the future. Because I'm wanting to do a special thing with Loot Crate if I can get 100 subscribers. So if we can get more subscribers, that'd be great. Yeah, just make sure you guys share this video, tell your friends and family, make sure they get involved, and hopefully we can do some contests and some giveaways for you guys. Alright everybody, have a nice day.